Coming up on the Unmasking Minds, Empowering Mental Health Conversations podcast.
My perspective is it does have damaging effects, psychological effects to not only the people that are involved, but the extended family, like the children.
A different perspective on a controversial topic we told you before.
Losing trust in a relationship is like the worst thing to do.
We're getting the millennial male's perspective on women in relationships with married men.
You'll sleep with a married man, but you don't want nobody to sleep with your man.
These viewpoints and opinions are coming up on the podcast. Welcome to the Unmasking Minds, Empowering Mental Health Conversations podcast. I'm Anthony Redmond, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us as we embark on a journey to break the stigma surrounding mental health and ignite a powerful wave of transformation. In today's episode, we delve back into the controversial topic of women in relationship with married men. We received multiple perspectives on this issue, and last week we heard from millennial women sharing their viewpoint. Let's take a look at a clip from that episode.
So I think that in my generation, the idea of taking someone's man is like the ultimate self-esteem, right? Oh, you had something because I, X, Y, Z, whatever it is, I've been able to take that from you. So now I'm the one that looks good. Even if it's not long term, even if it's not permanent, the fact that I can do that, I can take that from you, means that I have something more than you. Though, of course, we know, as we'll explore on this podcast, that the long-term effects for that person, you don't really have them. But I think that our culture has caught on to that, and they're sucked their teeth in it. So I feel like for a lot of people, it's that ultimate self-esteem, like, oh, nope, I got him. He's not yours anymore. He's mine.
A lot of good points made by those young women last week. Today, us as mental health providers offer a compassionate and analytical perspective unraveling the motivation, emotional impact, and mental health implications involved. Get ready for a thought-provoking discussion that challenges stereotypes and provides guidance for men and women navigating these complex dynamics. Joining me to help me navigate the conversation is Brian Crook. Welcome, Brian. Welcome to the Unmasking Minds, Empowering Mental Health Conversations podcast. I thank you for coming. And viewers, just want you to know that Brian is my student. I'm so happy, been working with him for the last few years. And he has about 11 weeks before graduation. And he has been by my side, really digesting a world of today's mental health issues. So please, Brian, tell the viewers about who you are.
My name is Brian Crook, and I am studying to be a future mental health provider. All right, a little bit about my background. I went to the University of Michigan, graduated with a bachelor's in general studies. From there, I pursued a master's in information systems, graduating from the University of Phoenix. However, in my journey, I started to realize I had a different passion to help people. And when I met Dr. Redmond, he kind of changed my focus on what I wanted to be in life and what I wanted to do for myself. And as I was around him more, I started to realize I wanted to dive into the social work aspect. And so I went back to school to pursue a second master's at Walden University. And I'm pursuing a master's in social work to be a licensed clinical social worker because eventually I want to provide therapy for people who are seeking help or who need guidance. I will be specializing in trauma therapy, also cognitive therapy, dialectical therapy, and trauma-focused cognitive therapy.
Brian is an excellent student. He's hungry for this. And we also talked, Brian, about the need of black males in therapy because it's a shortage. And dealing with our population, a lot of people are seeking black men to provide mental health treatment for them. So I commend you for your new journey. And when I introduced mental health to you, and I gave you a track that is easier for you to get to the clinical point of it, and you did it. And you have 11 weeks left. And you've been my student for how long?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And we did a lot of great work. Yes. And I want you on this show because I think you're ready to dive deep into this to help me navigate what is really going on. Because my viewers know from previous episode, and you watched the previous episodes, that in my office, I deal with a lot of family dynamics, marital relationship counseling. And as you review my research with me, we see that the mental agony stems from affairs, from the children point of view, from the males, from the females, for the whole family dynamics, okay? So your perspective on that is what?
My perspective is it does have damaging effects, psychological effects to not only the people that are involved, but the extended family, like the children, like the in-laws. I think that number one, the thing that affects them, the children the most, is the arguing, the fighting. Once things have become revealed, I guess emotions pour over sometimes, and things are said in front of their children. And I think that children don't know how to digest some of these things that they're hearing. And they know that, like, children can feel when things aren't right between their parents. And even though there's nothing they can do about it, they still have to find a way to process those emotions, hearing their parents scream at each other. And I think it has definitely damaged not only their psychology, but their confidence. I think it affects their self-esteem. When things are not right at home, it's hard to go out in this world and function the right way when there's problem where you find comfort at.
Right, and so what Brian is speaking about is the family dynamics. So family dynamics, I'm more CBT, DBT, and trauma focused, and we talking about that's traumatizing for the children. But the family dynamics of this is what you just explained. It's a whole family dynamic piece to people having affairs for their own personal reason. And just want you guys to know, viewers, we did research. Brian, my student, and I gave him a task, and he did research on men and why men having affairs and having women on the side, and things that what they're trying to fulfill with their lives, okay, and not understanding that it's a impact on their mental health and on that woman's mental health and on their children's mental health, on their family mental health, in-laws mental health. It's a greater impact on this and I don't think people understand what mental health is all about. Right. People think mental health is, I was born crazy. Something is wrong. Or think about as you was growing up. Go back to about 12, 13, 14 years old, when you heard people with mental health problems, what did you hear when you was at that age?
We were told that, leave them alone, that crazy old man, that crazy woman. And then that was a stigma where we looked down upon people that we considered crazy.
Now go back to grade school and middle school and high school. You saw one of your peers who experienced mental health, issues. You looked at them as...
I looked at them as something was wrong with them. I didn't look at them as normal human beings at the time. I thought that, that I thought like everybody else, yeah, you're crazy, something wrong with you.
Right.
And, I didn't want to be around people like that. So those type of people were isolated, when I was growing up.
And, sorry, viewers, I wasn't me at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It was some little bullying going on too. Let's just be honest. This is unmasking everything. And I have to unmask myself. I did a little bit of bullying when I was growing up, and I saw kids who displayed behaviors, mental health behaviors. I didn't know what it was. You know the word lunatic, or you messed up in the head. I didn't use the word messed up, but I use other words, and I didn't know. I was a little kid growing up on the block and having fun with my quote normal friends, right?
When I look back on it, at the time, I didn't know a few of my friends had, mental illnesses, I should say. But when you're young, you think certain things are fun. You think that it's exciting to see somebody do something that could be like criminal activity or something that can probably hurt somebody. So when I do look back on it, I can identify, I had a few friends that had mental illnesses, friends who, probably didn't know it at the time, but some of their actions led them to life in prison. Some of their actions have led some of my friends not being here anymore, killed by gun violence. I just think that at the time we didn't recognize that, okay, something wrong with these people, or they might need some extra help. Right. We didn't recognize that. And then even in school, when we always looked at kids who didn't perform on the average as other kids as them being slow. Right. But we never took the time to see the environment they come from. Right. Why are they perceived as slow? Right. And, as I've gotten older, I realized that, I have developed compassion for the less fortunate. And some of these kids were born into situations that wasn't their choice. And, you're being led by people or led by parents who don't know no better themselves, who weren't taught right either. So that's 2 generations right there of people being misled. And I think that, it shows the environment based off how kids respond in public places, in school. When you have children who kind of just don't care about society norms, I guess, it kind of shows their upbringing. Mm-hmm. So I definitely can see where it has impacted just not being knowledgeable about an illness or something that's been passed down, either trauma or genetically. And I think now we're just coming to a place in this generation, in this society, that we're starting to recognize that there's a lot of things that was taught to us, 40, 50 years ago that wasn't right. When I just think about some of the things that my grandfather was doing to some of the things that my father was doing to the things that I'm doing, certain things are similar, but there's a lot that has changed, and I think the way we deal with trauma, and I think the way we deal with mental illness has definitely changed for the better, because again, those people were written off 40, 50 years ago.
And I like when you just said something very critical. You said my grandfather, my father behaviors, and I see myself doing some of those behaviors. Now, as you've been a student with 11 weeks left, you have 11 weeks left. What theory would you associate that with?
The family dynamic theory.
And the social learning.
Social learning theory. Yes. Yes.
We learn from our environment, right. And what we see, that's what we do. Right? You ever look at an athletic team? My son went to one of the top high schools in Michigan, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and I played high school football. And compared to the psyche at that school, it's like we waiting for the championship game. Right. The school I went to when I played football, we hoped to make it to the playoffs. Right. You see the difference? Yes. And so it's a learned behavior as you here for a reason. Yes. You are here to win championships, and they won a lot of championships. And it's a whole social learning theory that applies to everyone who's alive walking on this planet. So think about that for a second. What are the motives? Understanding the motives of black men. Well, let's go back before I say that. People look at mental health and not understanding what mental health is all about. Mental health is like every single day.
Yes.
Mental health is like, I just cheated on my wife, or I just cheated on my husband, and I feel guilty, and I'm overwhelmed with guilt. Or I'm involved with this relationship, and I'm in love, and I don't want to leave this person, and I'm ashamed, and I'm overwhelmed with guilt, and now it's leading to these emotions now, right? That's mental health. Feeling of sadness, grieving a little bit, depressed, anxiety. Let's think about a person now. Let's put things in perspective, because it's a negative connotation on mental health right now, because people think mental health is that you born crazy. No. We create some of our mental health problems, right? Think about you having an affair. That's anxiety. You know why it's an anxiety? Think about it. You in an affair with this woman or man. The anxiety comes from hiding, not telling the truth, or not getting caught. And you have to lay down with yourself and land next to your mate. And in your mindset, it has to be overwhelming of guilt. Because this person is telling you, I love you and I trust you. But within inside of you, you live in this big fat lie.
To me, if you are an individual who don't believe in morality, moral standards, it's easy for those individuals to live a double life. You know, I personally feel that what's done in the dark will come to light. I personally feel that. You might think you're getting away with it, but eventually things will come. Things will come to fruition, and the shock value, the betrayal, can be very devastating, to the person's psyche. It can also create low self-esteem.
So let's look at it at this. Now, I'm 25 years plus into mental health, okay? And as I hear you say what you just said, I look at it as this person suffering from a personality disorder now, because they don't care about if they hurt your feelings or not, as long as they're getting pleasure. Yep. You see what I'm saying? So, and sometimes viewers, or you know somebody out here doing this, or if you're doing it yourself, you really have to analyze yourself. Do I have a personality disorder, or do my mate have a personality disorder? Because why are you doing this behavior? You coming home and you telling your spouse every day, I love you. I love you from my core. But you go out and do something wild. What is that saying? Like, think about it for a second. Because people don't know what mental health is, right? Mental health is everyday life. Mental health is, okay, I'll give you an example. This person at work, and he's really stressed out, or she's really stressed out. And they come to me crying, can't focus on work because their bosses or their boss or their superior is just picking with them. Talk about that. Well, we all experienced it.
Yeah. Definitely. In my time, even when I was younger, when I had relationship issues, it was hard for me to focus at work. And the last place I wanted to be was at work. I wanted to be with that person, and I wanted to try to fix whatever the issue was. And then it's like sometimes you feel trapped, You feel helpless. When you are stuck at work, you got other things on your mind outside of work. You got somebody at work that's probably riding your back a little bit hard that day, and it compounds different issues, and it can, one issue can lead to another. You can start off with high anxiety, and then it can lead to depression. And I think that those things go hand in hand, anxiety and depression, when you dealing with extramarital affairs.
Not only extramarital affairs, I'm not talking about mental health, period, at this point. You having a bad day at work or a bad month, or your boss don't like you, you dealing with that turmoil, or that mental agony you dealing with at work. Now you are stepping out on your mate. So you're dealing with that issue as well. Trying to hide, guilt, whatever. Your life is like falling apart. So mental health is created sometime. Okay. Now it's a point of it, or part of it is genetics. Right. Okay. But majority of the time it's what we create. Right. The world we create. This young lady said to me, I'm gonna do a podcast show on this. What is happiness? And I'm not gonna give you guys the answer, but it will be a future podcast show about what is happiness. You don't have to answer that, but we will have a podcast show on that. But what I'm trying to say today is mental health is created by your choices and your behaviors. I'm a very spiritual person. And my mother, my parents, I could hear my dad rolling over his grave right now. Son, you gotta lay in that bed that you made. Absolutely. You created this problem, son. Now get yourself out of it. And that's the mental health I'm talking about. We create some of this stuff or whatever, So.
And I do believe that some of these things that we do create, but it comes from somewhere. Creating a issue that can cause a crisis with mental health. We got to kind of look at what's going on with this person for him to even create a nuance of problems. So when I think about that, I think about, okay, this individual is seeking something. I don't know if he's missing something. I don't know if he has it all, but he's seeking something. And that can be a mental issue as well, that you could be dealing with something all your life you never knew you've had. And you could be making choices and decisions, reacting off impulse, not knowing it could be a mental illness, but you thinking it's an impulsive decision, whatever. So I just think that people are now getting to a place where they're starting to recognize that, hey, I might need some help with how to manage these emotions that I constantly feel, or, how can I put this past trauma behind me that keeps haunting me.
And let's look at the societal and cultural factors of men cheating, women want to be with married men. When you hear the cultural and societal factors of this, what pops to your mind?
Initially, in my generation, I initially said hip-hop music in my generation. But as I dug a little deeper, I started to realize, okay, where did the hip-hop get it from? Then I started realizing the movies that were made in the 70s, the pimp movies, the Goldies, the Macs, they were showing us on screen how to deal with women. Now, I'm not going to say that was a representation of all women, but they were showing us that if a woman doesn't respect you or she doesn't do what you say, then you have to take action. So I do believe, and I've heard this growing up myself, when, from older men, generation, my father and older, not my father in particular, but his generation, if your woman don't listen to you, you beat her, and I think that was passed down, and that's a slave mentality actually, yes. But it was passed down, and I think that a lot of men were taught wrong especially in my generation. Now, I can't speak for my father's generation because their fathers only had third and fourth grade educations, and a lot of them were World War II veterans.
Yes.
Okay, they came home. They were just happy to be having a family. They're happy they made it back home.
Right.
They had families. They worked in factories. That's all they ever strive for. They raised their sons that way. You know, get you a job. You know, provide for your family. The man is the breadwinner.
Yes.
We're in this new generation now where the women are starting to supersede the men.
Right.
And now it's a new level to me of mental illness that's affecting my generation, I should say, because we're seeing a large amount of women that are educated, but then the men are not. We got all these women that's educated, but the men are still here. And so I think that society has taught us to look down on women, even women that are educated. Society has taught us to look down on them. When you see, and I might be going a little off subject.
No, go ahead, talk.
But when you see educated women marry a man that's probably not on that same educational level, or you want a project, you want a man that you can build up when you're already established.
Right.
I think that shows a form of control.
Yes.
That shows a form of insecurity. You know, needing somebody that you have to control. I also think that, you know, the way we were taught how to handle women, we were taught that if they didn't obey us or they didn't agree with us, then they're B's and H's. Right. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say it.
Right.
But that's what society has taught us, that when they don't listen, they're B's and H's. If they don't listen, you hit them.
Because that's what it is. And I could pick up on that. Why black men are not going to college and becoming educated. I'm not saying that having a college education that you could be successful. I'm not saying that. But when you said that, it brought me to this one young lady I thought about a long time ago. We was all going out after work. And she said, I'm embarrassed of my husband. She said this. Mm-hmm. And I told her, don't you ever say that again around these men. Mm-hmm. You open yourself up to something that you don't want to be exposed to, because we hunt. Yeah. Let's just keep it real. Yeah. So now you putting yourself out there like you embarrass your husband, but you going home, you telling this guy you love him, and you have 2 of his kids. But you embarrassed of him because he didn't go to college, and you around it was only 3. Right. These 3 black educated males. I grew up working with my hands. I grew up building houses. Mm-hmm. So I respect everyone. Right. And my favorite pastime is building houses. That don't make me less than a person, you know what I'm saying, a MD. So you get me what I'm saying? Because an MD is going to buy my house. Right. And I'm very educated, right, you know, with 6 degrees. Right. But I don't look at myself as that. I look at myself as Anthony Redmond, right, coming from my parents from Mississippi with the 8th and 9th grade education down in Belzona, down in the Delta of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say this because they raised me with high values and high morals. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where all this stuff is coming from.
Well, you know, I think it's what society is perpetuating, mm-hmm, in the media. And, you know, even, again, when I take it back to hip-hop, there's no substance in the music anymore. Mm-hmm. So things are being taught in a negative fashion. And, you know, with boys being, I'm going to speak on teenage boys, with them being totally uninhibited, with them not having an ounce of fear. They're listening to this music thinking this is what real men's supposed to do. Now, this is another thing I want to touch on is the keeping it real thing. We have a false sense of what it means to be a real man. And I'm saying that to the black culture, because this is the culture that has a problem with this word. Keeping it real, to me, misleads young men. They think keeping it real means you got to be the biggest criminal. You got to go to jail to be a real man. You have to do something that's going to, hurt somebody to build yourself up. And I think that saying, honestly, came from a particular rapper, which was Tupac Shakur. When he said, I'm keeping it real, he didn't mean keeping it real as in I'm still going to be this dude from the street. He was saying I'm keeping it real is I'm going to stick to my principles and my morals. This is what got me here. And I think that, guys, we have glamorized the criminal lifestyle over the educational lifestyle. I think we want it now and we don't want to work for it, and that's black people's problem. We want everything to come now. Nobody wants to put the work in. I think these kids are fascinated by money, cars, women, and they think the only way you can get that is to do illegal activity. What they don't realize is you can have all of that if you go to college and make something of yourself. Right. So for me, one of my motivations, I'm the first male on my mother's side of the family and my father's side of the family to have an education. I wanted to break that stigma. I didn't want to be a statistic like every other black male. When I would read the paper and I would read things about black men, I didn't see myself in that. But until I can prove otherwise, that's what I'm going to look like. So that was one of my motivational factors to become educated. And now that I am educated, I want to give back to a younger generation of young men who need guidance. I'm not too far from where they used to be. I can still relate to what you guys are going through, but I can also tell you, there's a way of doing things the right way. And I think that, we need to educate our culture more.
And teach them that having multiple women is not a healthy thing to do.
That's another thing. So growing up, we were taught to be pimps and players. We were taught this, especially in the black culture. We were taught that if you don't have enough women, you're not a player. If you don't sleep with this, you're nobody, So we were, I can remember in the 90s, definitely we were trying to sleep with as many women as possible. In that journey that a lot of black men went through, for me, I should say, now that I'm older and I process different, I look back and wish I would have never did some of the things I did. And now I realize I was taught wrong. My daddy never told me, my father never told me how to mix and mingle with women. I learned that hanging out in the street.
Yes.
And I'm listening from guys who haven't been taught right either.
Yes.
And so because of that, we did things being young, not knowing, that I sometimes wish I could take back, right. But it does start right there, is that we're being taught wrong. And we're seeing why.
A generational curse. Coming from a spiritual point of view, is in Exodus. God talks about a generational curse and the whole social learning theory. I could take the theory that we are learning from mental health, I could apply it to the Holy Bible. God talks about this in the Holy Bible. So the generational curse, I'm cursed, you curse. And my goal is not to bring that curse to my son. But guess what's going on? His friends is bringing a curse to him. Because he sees the world totally different the way I raised him. And it's crushing my heart. And I love him. And I didn't teach him to go sleep with multiple women. But I was taught that. Right. Not from my father, right. By older brothers, exactly. And their friends, right. And I'm thinking to be a man, I have to do this. But no, that's not true. Right. That is unhealthy. Let's talk about this. This unmasking. We have to unmask this. You putting yourself out there. Look at the STD rates in the black community. Yes. It's the highest amongst any other race of people in this world. Yes. And ain't that many people, black people in America, what, 12, 13% of black people? I'm saying black people. And I question that statistics anyway, because you say it's like 12 or 13% of black people in America. But what about all the black males in prison? You can't count them, because they're not a part of society. You know, and what about the people who are buried? You can't count them because they're gone. Right. If you really look at statistics, what are you really trying to measure? Right. And you know, as me being at my level of education, statistics can be misleading. Yes. They screw it to get what they want. They get the fundings they want from the government. Everybody's lying. Everybody need to unmask themselves because everybody's lying. Right. What is true now? Right. Now you got AI now that is, well, we questioning everything. What is really true? Right. And sometimes, you know, as being a mental health provider and professional, you in this world too with me now, that we know we only function in our conscious mind. Do you know the percentage of the time we in our conscious mind? Like 8 to 10% of the time, somewhere around there. Between 8 and 12% of the time in our conscious mind. So we spend a lot of time in our unconscious mind. I mean, our subconscious. Then we got the unconscious. And no one never really delve into the unconscious because they don't know what it is. You see what I'm saying? So we walking around here like zombies. If you really think about it.
No, we are.
And these women, you know, I hear this. I see this. I understand this. And the things they tell me, I just got to unmask this. I don't care. We about to unmask this. Because I remember pulling up one time, you know, I got a sports car, and I'm going to have, after work at the office, I'm pulling up to have me a cocktail and a dinner before I go home. You know, because when my son went off to college, I was lonely. Because me and him spent that was my guy. We were always together, right? 'Cause I was parenting him, so now he went off to college, it was just me. And I left work and I pulled up and it's a group of young ladies sitting at the table. And they used the word zaddy. Z-A-D-D. I didn't know what the heck they're like, zaddy, you come sit with us. I said, no, I'm taken. We didn't ask you that. We want you to come sit with us. We want you to come hang out with us. Right. So I told them I was taken, but they didn't care. You know, they didn't care.
Yeah. You know, that is.
What message are you sending a man? Listen, if I had a daughter, I probably would have responded a little more aggressive in a way of, you know you shouldn't be doing this, right? But I was just trying to understand why. Why are you guys selling yourself short?
I think it boils back down to low self-esteem. Now, going to the bar and having a drink and having a conversation, there's nothing wrong with that. Right. You know, whether it's male or female. Right. It is nothing wrong with that. However, it's leaving that establishment with a phone number or the person.
Or intentions to do something wrong.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Right?
Exactly. So that's what makes it wrong. Right. What I've learned, I'm happily married, 15 years married. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Right. What I've learned in my time being married, and in the beginning of my marriage, I fell for a lot of stupid stuff, you know. But what I've learned is that, you know, with women, I should say, is that they're big on competition. And, you know, what I've learned is that women don't necessarily want me, okay? They're seeing the status, they're seeing what you're doing for yourself. They don't necessarily want that. They want to know if they can have you. It's a thought. So to me, I think when we engage with them, we're letting them know that they can have us. You know, I think it's a false sense of security, you know, to a certain degree. I just think that when you go in certain environments, you're going to deal with a certain type of person. If you go in the bar, 9 times out of 10, people are in there not only to have a good time, but they're looking for somebody. you know. So coming into, I guess, a establishment like that, you kind of have to know what is going to come your way when you present yourself in a certain way. Because you're an educated black man, you are like, to me, an educated black man that takes care of business and responsibility. Right. You are like at the top of every woman's list. Right. And so every woman wants a man like that, you know. And I think when they see one, sometimes they don't even know how to behave to a certain degree. And they will get beside themselves and say things off. They'll throw things at you to see if you're going to bite. Right. You know. But I always said that, and I've heard this from other guys, other men who've been in these situations, they don't respect the woman that accepts dealing with a married man. They don't respect that. I heard a young lady tell me before, how come all married men try to holler at me? All married men always try to talk to me. And in my mind, I was thinking like, well, how are you presenting yourself? Okay? Because if a married man steps out, he has a motive. And he already knows what he's going to try to do. A female knowing that, a woman knowing that he is married and you still agree to those terms tells me, number one, you have no value in yourself. You have low self-esteem. You're willing to hurt somebody else. And I also feel that nothing good comes out of this. You know, whether he gets hurt, you get hurt. And some situations, people have been killed over this stuff.
You hear about it every day.
Every day.
And to piggyback what you're saying, now I gotta go deeper from a psychoanalytical point of view of this. Where these women are learning this from? Okay. Think about parents, their mothers, no fathers in the household. What do you think their mothers are doing? Think about it for a second. What do you think their mothers are doing?
I think that women were taught to get a particular man by their mothers. Now, you got half women that grew up with their fathers, half who didn't. Right. The ones that grew up with their fathers, they see a representation of not only a man, a husband, and a father. Yes. If he was good at that, right. Which there are a lot of men that are. Right. But if you don't have that representation, I think that you don't know what a real man looks like.
You know, we on the podcast show. This is conversation. Right. Pull out your cell phone for a second. We talking about mental health. Google, what's the percentage of black women have their fathers in the household? Let's just Google that. Find a reputable site could really talk about that. Statistics will pop up. Let's really, because this is something that I really need people to understand, that this situation didn't happen overnight. And I see the impacts of it in my office. I see the whole family dynamics in my office. I got to work with the mother, the father, and the kids.
This one says 1 in 3 women see themselves as fatherless daughters and struggle with feelings of abandonment. In the U.S., 19.5 million children live without a father in the home.
19.5, 1 out of 3. That's what we're talking about right now. Yeah. So they're learning this from, they seeing their mothers. Yeah. I'm sorry, viewers, this is a real unmasking show. I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm not trying to diagnose nobody. I'm just trying to have a real conversation on mental health and the things that is going on, what I see in my practice, okay? So 1 out of 3, okay? And usually their mothers are dating, men are in relationships, and they okay with it. Because usually from a financial hardship, they're benefiting. And the daughters are learning this. Right. My mother did it. My aunt is doing it. You know, my girlfriend is doing it. Why not me?
You know, just like the young ladies you had last week, one of the ladies in particular said that, you know, for some reason, you know, it's a notch under a woman's belt to take your man. You know, they're being taught this. I can take your man. My stuff is better than the next.
Right. They were talking about the singer,
Right.
the rap, whatever group.
You talking about City Girls?
City Girl. I never listened. I probably heard City Girls. I probably don't know what they were talking about. Yeah, they was talking about they would listen to those music, that type of music in their environment, and they was hearing this, and it became normal.
It definitely has become normal.
But real talk for a second. Real talk. Real talk. You got to unmask yourself right now. How many females came to you and say that I'm better than your wife? Real talk.
I wouldn't say any of them said they were better than my wife.
Or they could provide more than your wife could provide.
I don't think nobody has actually came at me like that. But what I will say is that I think that women think that they can provide better than what your wife is providing.
Right.
They assume that.
Right.
They don't know it. They just assume it. What I will say is I've been hit on by several women being married.
Yes.
And they know I'm married.
Right.
You know, they'll ask me, are you married? Yes, you know I'm married. Yes, I am. I don't have my ring on today, but usually I have it. It's in the shop. However the case, they'll see my ring. And they'll say, are you married? You see my ring on my left finger. I'm married. What I learned over the years, that's not what they're asking. They're asking, I know you're married, but do you cheat? I know you're married, but do you step out? They're already asking that. That's what they're asking when they ask you, are you married? From my experience.
Right.
You know, and I just think that, again, it's what they're seeing on TV. It's what they're hearing in the music. Men are weak. You know, men are visual. Men can be weak in the flesh sometimes. But again, like I said, what I've learned over the years is that you don't necessarily want me. You just want to know if you can have me. And that's what I realized. So once I realized that stuff don't even mean nothing to me no more. When a girl says, yeah, I'm married. Right. Okay. You know? And then I have another thing for women, ladies in particular, because I've heard stories, I've seen things with my own eyes. You have these women who are cool with sleeping with married men. You cool with messing up somebody else's situation. But the minute you get in a situation, now you want everybody to respect your situation. And then you get upset if somebody talks to your man. But just 2 years ago, you were sleeping with somebody else's husband. You didn't care about her feelings. Now all of a sudden, you want somebody to respect your relationship.
Right.
You know, so that to me is the hypocrisy that women, you know, will. It's okay for you to cheat, but then when you get somebody, can't nobody touch your man.
Right.
You know,
Right.
What goes around comes around.
Karma.
You know, if you playing dirt, you're gonna get dirty. Simple as that.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just what it is.
Right. No, real talk. And I just think about a whole lot of stuff that I've been through. I remember when I first got married, I'm working on my master's in psychology. This was crazy. This was the most craziest thing I ever experienced in my life. I was young. I was 24 years old. And this young lady was in my class. And I got married over, the winter break. Mm-hmm. So I came back with my wedding ring on, and this young lady was getting my attention. I had her in 2 prior classes, but I'm focused on class. I'm trying to graduate. I didn't care about none of that stuff, whatever. And I came back, and she flagging me down. She was sitting on the other side of the classroom, like, and I'm looking at her. She got my attention, and she's pointing down at my finger. And I'm like, she was like, yeah. I said, well, I'll talk to you after class. I was excited to tell her, yeah, about to tell her about the wedding and everything. And so after class, she like, what's up with the ring? I said, oh, I just got married. I'm excited. She like, you lying. I was like, no, I just got married. She like, I'm in love with you.
Wow.
I'm like, well, I just got married.
Wow.
She like, you just broke my heart. And she's like, I want you. You gotta allow me to have you. Because I fantasized about you all the time. I said, but I just got married.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Man, that blew my mind. It blew my mind. I said, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I walked away from the situation. I didn't respect her. From that point,
Right.
and no respect for her. None.
Right.
Zero. I said, you can't even talk to me anymore. Because you told me you still want me no matter what. Wow.
And it's a lot of women that take on that moniker as well. Like, you know, I'll take what I can get.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And
Just give me a piece of you.
yeah. And you know, again, when it comes back down to the competition, you know, women hate on each other for the smallest things. You know, it could be because your nails look better, you got your hair longer, your skin lighter, whatever. That dress fits you right. They hate on women for the dumbest things to me. But to pursue somebody else's property, that's almost trespassing. I mean, if this was a house, that would be trespassing. This was a house, you'd be breaking the entry.
Right.
You know, so for you to feel good about that, or to feel accomplished that you possibly could be destroying somebody's future, to me, that says a lot about your mentality. And I know men can be weak, and I know we're visual again. Our flesh is weak. But like they always say, all money ain't good money, you know?
Right.
And sometimes, you know, a woman can look beautiful. She can have everything going on, but those morals and values aren't right. So with that being said, women that approach men that are married, I'm telling you now, married men don't have no respect for those women. Period. So you might get what you want, you know, temporary, but you're not gonna be satisfied.
It's that 80-20 rule. 80%, that 20% that I don't want my wife to do, but you definitely about to do it.
You'll sleep with a married man, but you don't want nobody to sleep with your man.
Right. So Brian did research, and can you talk about the research? This is weird. This is not out of a Cracker Jack box or anything, whatever. This is real. And I asked Brian to do research, and you survey 50 men. You could bring out your phone. This is fine. Let's talk about it. First of all, our hypothesis.
I did a research on 50 men.
Right.
And I asked these men, why do men cheat on their wives or their significant others? And in this survey, I received a lot of feedback. And I asked nothing but married men or men who've been in serious relationships. The number one answer was ego. The number two answer was lack of sex. The number three answer was communication. The number four answer was lack of respect.
So ego, breakdown. When you say ego, they would ego as
in, from what I gained from this research, most men want to see if they still got it.
Oh.
They want to see if they can still get out there, and if they still got that same charm and charisma they had before they got married.
Right.
And I think the ego comes from needing the ego to be stroked, comes from the inside the relationship. You know, for men, from what I've gathered, you know, when you've been married for such a long time, people get comfortable. They get lackadaisical, complacent.
Yeah.
You know, they forget to do the things that they used to do that kept this man excited, and vice versa. No, in no form or fashion am I trying to say that we're innocent, because we're not. What I am trying to say, though, is that, you know, if you're not, men need their ego stroked. And it doesn't have to come from random people. They really want it from their significant other. You know, you could be in a situation where somebody's screaming on you all day. Somebody's telling you everything negative about you. Okay? I think that puts a man in a vulnerable place. Okay? So then, once that man feels vulnerable, he feels low self-esteem. He's not getting what he wants from his wife or his significant other. When they do go out in the world, to these bars, to these clubs, wherever there's women at, the first woman that says something that sounds positive, you smell good, you look good, or they give you that look, it's gonna sound like this is the first time I ever heard this, because I haven't heard it in so long. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where men get caught up, because they're vulnerable. I'm not saying that some men don't make stupid decisions. Yes, they do. You know, what I am saying is it's a vulnerability spot that we're in, and why we allow people, other women, to get in our head like that. And I know some women are gonna look at this and say, well, you men this, you men that, you know, you do this, you do that. And I understand that, you know, I really do. I'm not saying we're innocent at all. What I am saying is that I'm trying to get you to see why they're doing these things. You know, sometimes it has nothing to do with what you're doing, right. But ego is the male ego is fragile.
Now the second one was
lack of sex.
Lack of sex.
Okay.
Okay, I could break that down. Okay. I could break that down. You know, we did research from my office. Right. It was 90% of women have some mental agony. You know,
90% of women reported having mental agony from being in relationships like this.
Right. And while 72%
of men feel the same way: anxiety, stress, and mental agony.
Right. Lack of sex. I swear to you, about 99% of men came into my office doing marital and relationship counseling. They reported stepping out on their wives because they're not getting enough sex at home.
Yes.
It's about 99.9%. It was only one woman out of, guys, you got to understand, I've been doing mental health for over 25 years. This is not nothing I started last month. One woman out of probably like 400 couples I work with stated, my husband's not giving me enough sex. Only one.
So it's always the men saying, and see, that's where we get into science, biology, genetics. That's where we get into that. And what I will say, and this is just what I've learned from the research, you know, between the ages of like 15 and 40, men are like filled with so much testosterone and sexual energy, images, you know, things, you know, sex has been perpetuated to society in the last 25, 30 years. So all we see on TV is half naked women. You go on Instagram, all you see is naked women. You go on any website, you see naked women.
Naked women, naked men.
Naked men.
Everybody.
You know, everything is sexually driven.
Yes.
Because sex sells.
Right.
You know, but it does have a negative connotation or negative effect towards people or kids developing, either or. I think that because men are so full of testosterone, again, they think with the bottom head, not the top head.
Yes.
And to me, the bottom head drives men for at least 25 years, from 15 to 40. It drives us. I really feel that you get to a certain age and you start to mature. And that's another thing. I think women don't give their men time to mature. You know, There's no rule book on marriage. Everybody wants to be married, but nobody understands what it means to be married.
Or how to stay married.
Or how to stay married.
Being married is like a full-time job. You got to understand the love languages.
Yes.
You got to understand compassion. You have to understand companionship. You got to understand effective communication. You got to understand dating each other.
Or understand a man, period. Or
Understand a woman, period. Right.
Yeah.
And people just get in the relationship, and I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna be unmasking. You can hold back if you want to. I got married because my sex was good.
Yeah.
My woman, well, she's beautiful.
Right.
I'm having a ball.
Right.
Be traveling everywhere and sex all the time, and when the kid came and bills started coming and the life expectations and stress and dealing with a coworker or a boss, all that stuff starts to change. And that's when companionship and effective communication comes in, and friendship. A lot of people in marriages and relationships, they're not even friends.
Right.
You get me what I'm saying? So it's deeper. Right. And this podcast show is for people to stay married. Right. The people to understand what it takes to be married. Right. And how cheating and having all these affairs impacts the whole family dynamics and start causing trauma in children. Wait a minute. There's one particular case, the wife is traumatized. The wife is traumatized because she trusted her husband so much after some 20 plus years of marriage. Found out he was in a 5-6 years relationship. She's traumatized. Yeah. She is on medication. And she's still crying and dealing with this. She loves her husband so much. And he knows. And he feels so guilty. And he is so depressed right now. And people not realizing why I'm doing these shows. This the summary. The summary is coming from us. Right. This topic is over with. Yeah. But this topic is huge. Because people think mental health is, I was born this way. Or you crazy. Or a boat is missing in your head. You know, crazy stuff we heard when we was growing up. Stay away from that family. That family's not right. Or stuff like that. No. Embrace that family. Embrace that person. You know, get that person that help. You know. So all this research that I asked you to do, and you looking at it as now, as about to become in 11 weeks, a mental health provider, and you're looking at this now as what? Because college is not going to teach you this. No. You see what I'm saying? No. You have the best preceptor. Trust me. Yeah. Because you know how we talk. Right. I'm going to get down to the nitty gritty of everything. You know, college is going to teach you all the books. Right. No, this is real life situation.
You can't be taught real life situations.
No, you can't talk.
Yeah, you have to experience it.
You're going to come from a CBT point of view. You're going to come from a DBT point of view. You're going to come from a trauma focused point of view, or you're coming from a family dynamic point of view. You got to come from one of these models. What I'm trying to say, one of these models you have to use to help this person to heal. You can't judge it. Right.
You know, one of the reasons why I chose trauma as my focus is because I feel that black people come from trauma, okay? Generations of trauma that's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. Systematic oppression, you know, things that have been put in place for us to fail on purpose. So I feel that, you know, if people can talk about these traumas that has held them back throughout life. You got some people that were traumatized at 15 that at 40 years old, they still can't move forward because of what happened at 15. You know, my job, or what I want to focus on, is helping people get over these past traumas and, you know, to where it doesn't affect you physically, mentally, emotionally. You know, and I know that's hard for some. It's hard for some people to get over, you know, and I understand that. But, you know, just recognizing what the issue is, what the trauma is. You know, some people don't even know what's bothering them. And then you let them know, and then they be like, oh, wow, I've been dealing with that for the last 20 years. I didn't even know that. Yeah. And sometimes knowing, like G.I. Joe, half the battle. Half the battle, right. You know? So, you know, I just think that, you know, if we can get people to understand or focus, or if we can get people to see and look at it from a open perspective, you know, because a lot of people don't like that mental health stigma. You know, that connotation, they think you're crazy, whatever. I had a particular friend, I told him I was going to counseling. And he was like, what you going to counsel for, man? They can't tell you nothing, you know? And I'm just like, nah, because I've learned a lot, you know? But it's what he was told about counseling. That's why he looks at it that way. So I'm sitting there trying to educate him and tell him, like, no, man, it's more than what you think. You know, it actually helps you see yourself, you know?
And all your dysfunctions.
And all your dysfunctions. And I commend anybody that can recognize their dysfunctions and say, hey, I got this problem. I want to work on it. To me, that you got all my respect. Because some people won't even acknowledge that and continue to function the way they're functioning.
Just to summarize this is something big. This is a part of family dynamics. This is some part of maybe some personality disorders. This is mental health, because I see the impacts of all, from all points of view, from depression, anxiety, sadness, kids, you know, traumas with the children. I see it from all angles. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast show is to shine light on this. And I'm hoping viewers will understand that this is not a healthy thing to do at this point. If you love this woman and if you love this man, really think about the whole larger impact that you are having on your whole entire family dynamics. And we just summarizing what I have been doing the last several weeks to unravel this, to dissect this, to understand this. This is deep. So please, this podcast show is for our communities, all races of people, to really look at this. I don't care, gay, straight, whatever, who you are, people love. You know, you understand me what I'm saying? Yeah. Love is love. Love does not discriminate. So if you're doing this, really look at the greater impact what you're causing. We only focus on men and women. What about women on, you know, women and women, right. And males, you know, people are bisexual. Right. People are gay. Right. People, lesbian. And this impacts everyone, because love is love. Love shows no color, right. No gender, no race, right. No anything. So this is a summary. I'm going to leave my viewers with the word of the week. Mental health thrives in an environment of openness, honesty, and fearless dialogue, shedding light on the subject, removing stigma, and engaging in unshamed conversations are what truly nourish and support our well-being. So thank you, viewers. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week. Much love. Again, thank you for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on social media.